Guys, this is absolutely massive, mind-blowing information for when it comes to Palantir. Yesterday it was announced that there's a partnership between Palantir and Hertz, and this in of itself is not big news. Why? We already knew that in the Palantir community because we knew about the Hertz links. However, there was an amazing interview yesterday between the CEO of Hertz, Palantir's Dr. Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, and CNBC. And it's about an 11-minute interview. And I got so much information from this interview that I wanted to make it into a video. Instead of just giving you the key points, because essentially the entire video is jam-packed, I want to watch the video and give you my own reactions. I think it's worth everybody's time to watch this video. So please sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and tell me what you think as I'm gonna stop. You give me the comments down below as I'm giving you my own comments. And if you guys wanna see more about the partnership, just click the link up above. This is my video review about what the Hertz deal, the Hertz partnership actually means for Palantir.
Hertz and Palantir announcing a new partnership today. The car rental company will utilize Palantir's Foundry software to help manage its 500,000 car fleet. Joining us now, Palantir CEO Alex Karp and Hertz CEO Stephen Scherr. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining me. Stephen, you've been making a lot of deals since you've been CEO. A month ago, we had you on with Mary Barra and GM, and now with Palantir. What will this do for you?
Well, part of our success will be the partners that we keep, and we're super happy.
First and foremost, I think it's very important to understand that Stephen Scherr is the new CEO. This is the post-coronavirus CEO, and he's supposed to take Hertz to the next level. And although Hertz was working with Palantir for the last year, I feel like Stephen might be making this frontline and center and maybe expanding on the existing contract that Hertz and Palantir has. Or maybe a year ago, the links that we had between Hertz and Palantir was just a trial run, right? Like a freemium type of program. And now they're really going to expand on their use of Palantir Foundry, which is very, very interesting. Let's keep going.
To keep Palantir as a partner. What this will do for us is we're a business that sits on an enormous amount of data, both about our cars, about our customers, and the like. And positioning those cars and managing those cars to their highest efficiency obviously brings positive outcomes for the company and for our customers. Palantir and their Foundry platform enables us to take very different forms of data, whether it's data about our vehicles, data about the weather, data about airline schedules, take all of that, combine them in a way where we're not compelled to put them in a common form, and they give us output on which we can manage the company better.
All right, one great thing about Palantir, it's not just Palantir is giving you your own data that regurgitates to yourself. Palantir is giving you AI data analytics of your data, but it is preemptively processing, trying to make you as efficient as possible with the data that they have. And unlike a lot of platforms, they're not just taking data from one segment. As you can see, they're taking data from airline, if the car is breaking down, EV chargers, the mileage, when is somebody coming, do they have this specific car in this specific rental agency? You understand what I mean? So on and so forth. It's really, really remarkable. Let's keep going.
Alex, it's good to have you on the show, and really interesting to learn about all the different ways that your software is being put to work. How did the Hertz connection come together?
Well, I mean, obviously, just from a purely data management perspective, it's one of the most interesting businesses in the world. You have this massive fleet of 500,000 cars. The cars are registered all over the U.S., which means re-registration and managing of the fleet becomes an asset allocation problem. Asset allocation problems that are also include regulation require essentially next-generation software. It makes use of both Foundry 1.0 and 2.0, so managing the data, getting it into one place, and also when you have like a world-class CEO, as they have at Hertz, being able to impose the decisions on the data. And there was just a lot of excitement. Steve is kind of a cool dude and very, very into both the operations and the visions of the business. And that makes a discussion around how it'll be implemented and implementing decisions just really, really exciting. And I believe that, they're going to be winners both in the software industry and other industries. And people who can combine business acumen, management of very, very large data sets against time-sensitive decisions will win. And so it's just very...
All right, what he's basically saying is Palantir gives you the ability to process a shit ton of data from a shit ton of different sources and give you answers in real time. No lag. And that's the difference between the Palantir pledge or the Palantir promise or the Palantir ability with data shit and snow crap and all those other ones. Palantir for the freaking win, as always. Obviously, I'm biased, but I love Palantir. And if you love Palantir, do me a favor, show your love with a like, a share, and subscribe down below. And if you can't do a share and subscribe, just give me the like down below. It really helps with the YouTube almighty algorithm. Listen, this is one of the greatest interviews of Dr. Alex Karp's history. And as you can see, over the last 2 or 3 months, there's been so many more demos, so many more interviews. And I don't know if he's been coached or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if they literally hired an interview coach or a public speaking coach for Dr. Alex Karp because he's been doing so much better. He's starting to play the game, and I absolutely love it. But it's very important what he said. 500,000 cars across the entire United States gives a very specific need for an AI data analytics platform. Now, all jokes aside, not to shit on anybody else, Palantir is in a unique position to be able to process all of these millions and millions of data points in real time and not just regurgitate your own information, but process information preemptively that you might be looking for.
Cool to be in a partnership where I think we're going to win.
Well, Steve, a lot of love here. I mean, you've been building out the EV part of your fleet. How does this Foundry software help you do that?
Well, this is central to it. I mean, part of what we do is we have telematics and intelligence in the car. We know where the cars are and where they're moving. But we want to know and anticipate things about the car. We want to know how much charge is an electric vehicle coming into our location with, how much time are we going to need to put that car back up to a charge and put it out again. We need to know if brakes are going to, are in need of repair, commission those parts ahead of time, have them there so we can turn the car quickly. Understanding and knowing that data, digesting that data, I think is the core of what we're trying to do here. This is a unique intersection of software and hardware. And obviously what Alex and his team at Palantir bring forward is an ability to take reams of information and consolidate it into a coherent package so that we can take action and action the data, that we're sitting on. And I think it's a super exciting opportunity, particularly around the electric vehicle, which is obviously the direction we're going in terms of taking our fleet to an electric fleet to the tune of about 25% by the end of 2024.
All right, I want to actually bring 2, maybe 3 things up. Number 1, Palantir has 2 specs. One spec is Wejo, which is basically analytics of cars. They actually collect like 10 times more data than Tesla, the Wejo, and they do it via like sensors on your cars. And number 2, they have a spec, I think they're called Tyranium, so something like this, an EV charging port, which is very, very important. So that kind of correlates to what Hertz needs. Second thing that I want to say, he talks about a mesh between software and hardware. Where did you hear this before? The Anduril partnership where they're building the Titan prototype that looks oh so freaking beautiful. Maybe I'll link that video to the end of this video. I went over that as well. And again, all of this government work translates to big box, mega billion-dollar corporations. This is how it translates. And I keep saying this time and time again. Yes, everybody is like, oh, it's all about commercial, not about government. Government is what drives commercial applicability. Government is what drives commercial revenue, because if you're good enough for the government, obviously you're good enough for us. I'll give you another example. Palantir signed up that $100 million deal where they're actually doing preemptive measures, where they're doing preemptive data analytics to make sure that assets are not broken. And they're doing that for the military, right? AI and machine learning for the military to make sure that the military's assets are not broken, their hardware is not broken, and do preemptive measures, preemptive maintenance before something small becomes something huge. I just went to the dentist. She fixed me up. She did a couple of cavities. She filled it up. Shout out to my dentist. If I didn't go for another 6 months to a year, I would have ended up needing a root canal. So preventive measures now can solve you a huge headache or make sure you don't have a huge headache in the future. And I just wanted to make the correlation between those three things and what the CEO of Hertz just said.
Alex, for Palantir, I've noticed that the Foundry software is being adopted by a number of transportation companies, not just Hertz. I think you have deals with United and Ferrari and Airbus. How big is this business going to get, and why is there such a good match here with some of these transport companies?
Well, first of all, this is what makes this partnership particularly interesting is that you just have this combination between things that Foundry has done in the past, like preventive maintenance, looking forward, cycle of life, predicting where an asset should be, with dramatic issues around registration and how vehicles are registered, and then moving to a more climate-friendly fleet, all of which requires both integrating the data and then being able to decide against the data. And these are very, very big steps. We do well with complicated, interesting problems where the software gets shown off to be valuable. As your listeners know, most software is kind of not super useful. And so we are always looking for industries where you can just really dominate through the integration of hardware and software and entrepreneurial acumen. And there's a lot of industries out there. Some of the most notable, though, are these very, very complicated, very regulated, super international or interjurisdictional businesses that involve large machines, cars, planes. And so, the software, the harder the use case, the more the software has to be performant, the less it revolves around sales. We don't think we're good at sales. We think a lot of software companies are great at sales, and we want to show off software that works with partners that are the best. And so we seek them out, and to some extent, they seek us out.
All right, it's a couple of really, really cool things. He says interjurisdictional, which means that in not just one country, many countries, not just one state, many geographic regions, just to show the complexity of Palantir Foundry and what they could do. And it's not just for the rental cars, it's for racing cars like Ferrari, it's for BMW in general, it's obviously for Airbus, and it's of course for United, so for airplanes. Really, really cool, really interesting. Now, this thing for EV, Stellantis is building out a major factory where they're going to pump out more and more EV as well. So you see how everything just correlates and everything piggybacks on each other. Dr. Alex Karp, he's really an interesting guy. He's never going to stay shy, and he's never not going to take the opportunity where he can essentially big up Palantir and diminish everybody else. So he says, we're not so good at sales. We just have the best product. And others have really good sales department, but a type of product. And he says most of their products don't do anything, and we're taking the opportunity to show you how unique our product is, how unique and robust and deep Palantir Foundry is. And also, notice he keeps saying it's not just about taking the data. It's about taking the data, processing it, and making data-driven decisions. Okay? Keep going.
Sarah,
Go ahead, Stephen.
No, I was just going to say, part of the success of our company rests on the level of utilization that we can put our cars out, right? The return on our assets is key to financial return to our shareholders. What that means is we need to use our cars. Utilization needs to be high. It means we need to bleed dead time out of, the time a car is out of service. It means registering the cars quickly, repairing the cars quickly, charging the cars quickly, anticipating all of that and aggregating the data such that we can act on it is really at the core of what we're going to do with Palantir. It is all about taking up the utilization, the usable time a car is out on the road as a financial earning asset for the company.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you're bringing it to 2022. Renting a car is such an old school experience that often involves a lot of headaches.
2027.
Yo, did you just see my man Alex Karp? He says 2027, and he gave the sexy look like, yo, don't F with us. 2027. Why? Because at least in Palantir, the Palantards, the Palantir community, obviously Dr. Alex Karp, everybody in Palantir knows, what do we say? Our software is not for today, it's for 5 years in advance. While most software companies barely get the job done today, let alone tomorrow, and practically none at all in 5 years, Palantir is getting the job done not only for today, tomorrow, after year, but also 5 years in advance. And by the time others try to catch up, Palantir is going to be another 5 years in advance. But I love the fact that he took advantage of this opportunity. This is one of the greatest, maybe possibly the best interview that he's ever done. And notice something very interesting. I did not think he was going to do this interview. Usually he only does like government type interviews. He doesn't really like to talk about commercial. Again, I do believe that somebody is training him.
2027. Okay, 2027. There you go. Into the future. So, Alex, what I was going to ask about was, you say that you are attracting a lot of partners with complicated business. What's happening with spending right now? Because there are increasingly worries about the economy and companies having to cut back, batten the hatches, as Jeff Bezos tweeted last night in response to something that was said on CNBC. So have you seen an impact in terms of software spending from your customers and potential customers?
We have a global business, and Europe is slower, both because of financial constraints, energy problems, war on the border, and general kind of slowness in adoption of new technologies. In the U.S., our company's grown 67% year on year the last 3 years. What we see are
67% year on year for the last 3 years. 67% commercial building. 67% year over year. Commercial has grown 67% year over year. Just saying.
Tough times bring out great leaders and great leadership. And the way you win in tough times is by, as discussed as an example, you take an asset and make the asset more valuable. You explain it to the financial world that it will be more valuable. You show your customers more value. And then in a weird way, the tough times make you a stronger business. So pounding your business turns your business to steel. And so what we're by and large seeing pretty significant uptick in demand in the U.S., both commercial and in government for very different.
Both commercial and government. So in the beginning, we had really big government growth and everybody's like, oh, commercial is not growing. Then we had big commercial growth and people are like, well, commercial is not growing enough, but it's starting to grow. Now we have a lot of commercial growth. Government slowed down and people are like, oh, government slowed down. It's a shitty company. Now he took a chance. Again, these are really little subtle hints and jabs that we have now commercial and government growing. Like I said, we signed up over $800 million worth of contracts in just the last 30 days or so alone. Now, it's not just for 1 quarter or 1 year. Most contracts are between 3 to 5 years. Some are as short as 1 year, some are as long as 7 years, but you get the drift. And he just keeps, pounding it that yes, we're growing. And yes, it's hard times. But in reality, because of these hard times is probably one of the only reasons why half of these customers, half of these governments are actually going to be using Palantir. If right now was not hard times, if right now was all, peachy and gravy and no issues, Palantir wouldn't have the shot. Palantir is made for really shitty situations, if that makes sense. It's like your last line of defense, right? It's not that they take advantage of a shitty situation. They're literally the difference between a shitty situation becomes a unbearable situation, or a shitty situation becomes bearable because you see that there's an end in sight. And I love this interview.
Reasons. And we think the bad times will force people to move away from software that's about churning your own data and looking in the mirror at it, to decisions, figuring out how you can win, better asset allocation, making your asset more valuable, and it'll push very strong leaders like Steve to the top, which we think is really a crucial part of why American industry is so strong.
Final question to you, because I always think of you at the center of some of these geopolitical issues, and I'm sure you read Xi Jinping's speech this week to his party at the Congress. A lot of talk of technology and just overall reflective of the increasingly tense relationship between the U.S. and China. I was curious what you made of that speech and where you think this is going, given your vantage point into government defense.
We at Palantir have been taking the threat of our adversaries, both in Russia and China, seriously for the last 18 years. We believe the West has a software advantage at war, but not in internal surveillance, which I think is destructive of societies. I think this is going to get much worse before it gets better. partly because the capabilities that the U.S. government has, both in software and hardware, are still underestimated despite recent events. And because our adversaries largely just underestimate us. They look at us and they see certain things that are obviously crazy, but they underestimate the entrepreneurial talent of the American people to rebuild things, redo things, to act quickly. And the impact of software-hardware combination, whether it's this partnership or on the battlefield, is just something that is...
He's talking about Anduril's partnership to build the Titan prototype. That's what I'm thinking. Obviously, I have no idea 100%, but that sounds like something that he's talking about. And it's very, very important to see what he's saying. And he also said, very, very important, we have an advantage in wartime technology and software, not surveillance software. And he's kind of taking a jab about what's happening, in Russia and probably even more specifically in China.
Clearly on display and still underestimated. So I predict bad before it gets good.
Guys, let me know down below what you think about this interview. I think it was honestly one of the greatest interviews that he's done, at least that I've seen or that I can think of off the top of my head. Calm, collective, calculated, and all around great information. And if you're from the Palantir community, you can start putting the dots together about all the different things that we're in, all the different things that we're currently doing, both military, non-military, domestically and abroad. And yeah, tell me what you guys think down below. And if you guys want 12 free stocks, I do have a link to Webull down below. Why not get 12 free stocks? And if you want to hear more about Palantir, just click on this list right here. I have a shit ton of Palantir videos for you guys to watch. Thank you so much and have a great day.